Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Blazer Victory Podcast, episode number 67. This is John Duncan, and I have the pleasure to be joined by Ethan Bock, who covers West Virginia men's basketball for West Virginia Sports Now. Ethan, first of all, how are you doing this evening? And second of all, just thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to talk some basketball with me this evening.
I'm good, John. Thank you for having me on.
Good. And, we were talking a little bit before we started recording, things have been busy, especially for you today with, early signing day and you getting to do all that fun stuff. And also, got a big basketball game to preview for this Saturday down in Birmingham.
Yep. First true road game for the Mountaineers.
That's right. And let's, well, first of all, Blazer fans, if you're not following Ethan already, definitely give him a follow at Twitter at EthanBach_. Does a fantastic job, as I mentioned earlier, just, covering West Virginia for West Virginia Sports Now. But just definitely a must follow. And he was letting me know, before we started recording that, before the game on Saturday, he should have a piece out, previewing this matchup with UAB and West Virginia. But before we get started, and getting into previewing West Virginia, I just want our Blazer fans to know that this game is going to be 4:00 p.m. Central Time, tip-off at the BJCC from the Legacy Arena. It will be televised on CBS Sports Network, but we certainly hope that everybody in town, if you can, make it down to Legacy Arena to help cheer on our Blazers. Ethan, I don't know if you know, but UAB also has a big bowl game also this Saturday against BYU. So I do know a lot of Blazer fans making the trip down to Shreveport for that game. But if you are in town, like myself, definitely make it over to Legacy Arena this Saturday and cheer on Andy Kennedy and the Blazers. But Ethan, let's just go ahead and talk about this West Virginia team. They're coming in 9-1 overall. Really, the only loss was to a pretty good Big East team, Marquette, who Blazer fans, are aware of, an old Conference USA opponent back in the day. But just off the top of your head, just overall, what is going on with, West Virginia coming into this game? Because really, I got to watch a couple games. I watched the whole UConn game, watched a little bit of the Kent State game, but I guess just tell Blazer fans a little bit about what happened in that Marquette game, because it seems, looking at the stat sheet, that West Virginia was up by double digits at the half, but somehow just kind of, wasted away that lead, and Marquette was able to get the victory in that tournament.
Yeah, West Virginia was up by 12 at half, and then they came out of halftime slow. What they started doing was they would have two guards, Malik Curry and Kedrian Johnson. They would have them double the ball handler for Marquette, which would just leave someone wide open in the corner. And Marquette hit their shots. I think they shot 46% from three that game. So that's really why they lost. They had a terrible defensive second half. They allowed 47 points in the second half. So that's why they lost to Marquette.
Wow. And that was mostly, I'm assuming, just open 3-point shots going in.
Wide open. Like you could wait 3 seconds, they dribble it and then shoot it. Like they were getting wide open shots the entire second half.
Well, unfortunately, Blazer fans are kind of familiar with that, because we tend to let our opponents, especially in the first half, look pretty perfect from the 3-point range. Like I said, especially in the first half, but tighten things down mostly in the second half. But looking at the stat sheet and just watching the film that I have on West Virginia, it honestly just this team really revolves around just two guards, Taz Sherman and Sean McNeil. And, I saw where even John Rothstein tweeted out that in the last two games, both of them have combined for 85 of the team's 119 points. I mean, my goodness. So it honestly just seems that this team lives and dies by those two guys. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, fair assessment. No, it's really not that hard to game plan West Virginia this season so far on offense. Really one-dimensional. On Sunday they played Kent State, and at the half, they had one field goal that wasn't Sherman or McNeil.
Wow.
So those guys, I mean, it's almost every game. Taz Sherman, all of a sudden at the half, it's like 21 points, and he's finishing with like mid 20s almost every game. So, and once McNeil gets hot from deep, then he racks up his points. So, yeah, they
Yeah,
really do rely on Sherman and McNeil too much.
yeah, and it looks like right now Sherman's averaging right around 22 points a game, and McNeil 13 points a game. But I guess just looking overall, Ethan, what were the expectations for this Mountaineer squad coming into this season?
Honestly, I think the expectations were tournament team, just not a 3 seed from last year because they lost Deuce McBride, Derek Culver to pros, and then they
Yeah,
lost a couple of role players to the transfer portal, which I mean a lot of people did, but
yeah.
they added 7 new players this year, 3 grad transfers and 4 freshmen, so they were a totally new team this year. Sherman McNeil and Jalen Bridges and Gabe Osaboyan were pretty much the only like true returning players from last season that played a lot of minutes. So expectations really weren't that high, but at the same time, like they're still expected to be a tournament team.
So honestly, it just seems like just make the tournament and just from there is just golden, whatever you can
Yeah,
get.
whatever happens, happens.
Nice. Well, speaking of the portal, and you talked about him earlier, Malik Curry. Blazer fans should be familiar with this guy. He came over from Old Dominion. UAB was able to face him a couple times last year, and also the year before. And I mean, he averaged, I was right around like 13, 15 points in both contests last year at Bartow Arena. And, we were speaking right before, Ethan, and, Conference USA's schedule was really wonky last year during the COVID season. What they did is they played a Friday night game and then a Saturday afternoon, but you played against the same team, Friday and Saturday. So it was really, really weird. Thank God they've gone back to Thursday and Saturday for this year, and also thank God we're getting out of this conference. But just really wonky. But Malik Curry, I mean, he showed, at ODU last year and even late in the season, he showed flashes, which is, honestly probably what Bob Huggins saw in him and, allowed him to come over to West Virginia. But has Malik been able to kind of get in that rotation a good bit? I mean, I know, we just talked about Sherman and McNeil, but has Curry been able to get in there some in the rotation at guard?
Yeah, he's been coming off the bench, but he's usually finishing games. Like he's also been at times their third go-to guy. Like I think against Eastern Kentucky had 16 points.
Okay.
Against Pitt, he had 10 points. Like he's shown flashes of when McNeil and Sherman, not saying they're not scoring, they're always scoring, but when there needs to be a third guy scoring, Malik Curry's one of those guys that steps up.
Right. Or maybe when one of those two guys get in foul trouble or something, he comes in. And
yeah.
Okay. Nice. Well, speaking of foul trouble, for Blazer fans, I think really the key to this ball game is keeping Trey Jemison and KJ Buffin out of foul trouble. Those are the two bigs for UAB. And I mean, if they can stay out of foul trouble and get a lot of minutes in this ball game against West Virginia, honestly, I think UAB can have a shot in this game to, get the win at the BJCC. But if they get into early foul trouble, I mean, it could be a long night in Birmingham because Josh LeBlanc fell down very awkwardly in the last game against Grambling. Now, Andy Kennedy did say post game that it didn't seem to be as bad as they thought, that he might be okay, that he was walking around. So hopefully he'll be okay to come in and play, and maybe even Ranji Gordon come in as well. But really, KJ Buffin, who was a transfer from Ole Miss, and Trey Jemison, who played last year coming over from Clemson. Those two bigs really need to have a really good night against West Virginia, but most importantly, just stay out of foul trouble. But Ethan, can you talk a little bit about the bigs for West Virginia? Are they rebounding well? Because when you look at a Bob Huggins team, typically year in and year out, they're really good rebounders. Is that Is that accurate, at least so far early in this 2021-2022 season, or have they struggled a bit?
No,
Or
no, they. I'm just gonna be blunt with it. They're a terrible rebounding team.
oh wow, okay.
Yeah. Um, like so their starting center's Isaiah Cottrell. He had an Achilles injury last season, so he's still kind of getting into the groove. He's still that was his freshman year, so he's kind of like still even trying to get over the freshman like hump.
Mm.
So he's like height wise, he's their only big man starting. But off the bench they have three bigs: Gabo Saboyan, Damon Kerrigan, and Paulie Polycap, who are at least trying to rebound. They're the only three players on the team who will box somebody out and rebound. Jalen Bridges, he's a 6'7" forward and he leads our team with 5 rebounds a game. Like no one.
Wow.
This is not a good rebound. It's not a typical Bob Huggins rebounding team.
Yeah, I mean
They
that,
really do not rebound well this season.
and that's really shocking to me because typically you do see Huggins team really really good at rebounding. But that's definitely something UAB can try to take advantage of. Especially on the offensive glass. Especially with KJ Buffin, he has been killing it lately on getting those offensive rebounds and just trying to get second chance points for Jelly Walker and everybody. So hopefully that can be something that maybe UAB can possibly take advantage of. And that's so weird to say, especially going against a Power 5 opponent in West Virginia. Like, do you think that, you mentioned the center, he injured himself last year. Do you think maybe he's just, I don't know, just worried about re-injuring that knee or
Yeah,
something?
that's
Or
that's been a problem with him all season. He's kind of been cautious. His play style is like stretch the floor, shoot threes. It's really he's not a typical like Bob Huggins big like down low, but he's still like a little cautious about contact, which is understandable. They're slowly getting better at rebounding, but like at the beginning of the season, they're getting out rebounded by Oakland, Pitt.
hmm.
Like they like their best rebounding game was against UConn, and they still lost. I think they still lost a rebounding battle in that game, but that was their best rebounding effort.
In that game against UConn, I mean, wasn't UConn without a couple of their starters in that ball game as well?
Yeah, they were without Tyrese Martin and Dama Sonogo.
Mm. Well, Blazer fans are definitely liking what they hear about that, or about hopefully out rebounding West Virginia this Saturday. If UAB can do that, like I said, especially on the offensive glass, then I definitely like UAB's chances Saturday against West Virginia. But I guess let's take a quick look at the schedule overall that West Virginia has played coming into this game. You mentioned, I mean, technically it's a neutral site game, but I mean, let's be real, it's in Birmingham, so it's an away game for West Virginia. But can you talk a little bit about just the schedule that West Virginia has played? Have they played anybody really other than UConn or Marquette, or has it just been kind of a cakewalk other than those two games?
On paper, it looks like a cakewalk, but
Mm.
credit to them because they do have a lot of mid majors that they've played that are top of their conference, so they're not playing like
Yeah,
it would look.
Oakland's pretty good, aren't
Yeah,
they?
Oakland. I think Oakland beat Oklahoma State like on the road. Like they're a good team, and
Right.
West Virginia barely beat them in the home opener.
Mm.
Um, Bellarmine's always been a good D2 school. Now they're D1, but they've always been a good D2 school. And Eastern Kentucky's good as well. Like they've played good mid majors, but like Power 5 wise, yeah, not UConn, or Power 6 wise, UConn and Clemson are their best wins. Pitt, you might as well put Pitt as like Pitt's almost one of their worst like wins like in the net rankings. It's crazy.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, Pitt used to be a really good basketball team back in the day. I'm looking at the schedule too. It looks like y'all played, it looks like West Virginia played Clemson in that tournament with Marquette.
Yeah.
So that's a good win. And after this, it looks like West Virginia just has Youngstown State, and then they go into Big 12 play. So really, I guess this is the last big test, especially for UAB before they head into. I think they've got Mississippi Valley State before they head into Conference USA play. But definitely, for West Virginia as well, playing a tough UAB team on the road. before they go into Big 12 play. But Ethan, real quick, what do you, I guess, foresee happening this Saturday? Would it shock you if you come Saturday night after the game, UAB beats West Virginia, or what do you see happening this Saturday?
I don't want to sound negative. I just genuinely, well, negative for my people, my side of the game here. I just don't see. There's nothing. I haven't seen West Virginia play a true road game yet, so it's hard to tell how they're going to do on the road. Win or lose, though, this will be a really good test for them on the road. Like people say, oh, why are they, like, West Virginia fans have been like, why are they playing at UAB? Like, it's still a really good true road game for them. Like, any road game is just a really good test for your team to grow. And I think win or lose, this will be a really good game for West Virginia to kind of grow and mature before they start Big 12 play. They're going to have a really good game to win the game. They need to shoot their free throws well. I don't know if you saw the stat, but they are 353rd in the country in free throw shooting.
Oh, wow. So, hey, maybe that's something UAB can do too. I mean, we play an aggressive defensive style. I mean, maybe just go hack them and put them at the line.
Yeah. You were mentioning foul trouble earlier. Like, yeah, you may like UAB guys may be in foul trouble, but West Virginia has not taken advantage of making free throws this season. They are like, you'll look at their stats and you'll wonder, how are they 9-1? Like, yeah. There's a lot of things wrong with this team, and trust me, Huggins has been way more negative than I've been. I think this team has a lot of potential to be really good too. It's going to take them a little bit to kind of grow and mature a little bit. So it wouldn't shock me if UAB won at all.
Yeah, well, we're definitely hoping on our side of things that is the case, and get a really good win heading into conference play. And I mean, you look at the Ken Palm rankings too right now. I mean, these two teams are so close. I believe West Virginia is at 44 and UAB is at 45, just right behind them. So just two really good teams, and it should be a really good game come Saturday afternoon at Legacy Arena. But you were mentioning earlier too, from the West Virginia side of their fans wondering, well, why in the world is Huggins coming down to Birmingham to play, home and home with UAB. And it does go back to that relationship that Andy Kennedy, has with Bob Huggins, even, going back to the, Cincinnati days before Huggins left to, did he go to Kansas State from Cincinnati, I think? Yep. And then, Kennedy was promoted to be the coach short after that. So definitely, the relationship between those two guys helped this home and home happen. And I think we go to Morgantown next year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yep, home and home.
Sweet. So looking forward to that. But Ethan, it's been a pleasure, man. I just want to thank you so much again for coming on. Guys, if you are not following Ethan, definitely give him a follow on Twitter at Ethan Bock, BOCK _, on Twitter. As I mentioned earlier, he does a great job covering West Virginia for West Virginia Sports Now. And guys, too, we've heard I've seen some fans say that that aren't able to make it to the bowl game Saturday, that they want to stay home and, watch the bowl game and watch the basketball game at the same time. Please, if you can, make it out to Legacy Arena this Saturday. If you're just a casual fan listening to this podcast and you want to see really good basketball, I encourage you to get to Legacy Arena for should be a really fun game between these two schools. I'm looking forward to it. Ethan, are you going to be able to make the trip, or do you know anybody making the trip down to Birmingham?
No, I'm not going to be able to make the trip. I think maybe one or two people that I've heard of maybe making the trip, but I'm not sure with all that's going on this week. So.
Gotcha. Well, it's been a pleasure again, Ethan, and hopefully, we can get you on again next year when we make the trip up to Morgantown.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do that. I appreciate you having me on, John.
Of course. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you're not already, make sure you follow or subscribe to the Blazer Victory podcast on a podcast platform, and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/BlazerPod. But as always, guys, go Blazers.